Hello, everybody. Hope everyone's having a good day today. Good pre-Christmas Eve day or Christmas Eve day, whatever it is. However you want to phrase it. I wish I could afford to have multiple or like at least one or two more webcams because I constantly need to use one for work. So I keep moving it back and forth and it's just annoying. It's a very minor inconvenience. Uh, yeah. And I do recognize that it is a very minor inconvenience, but yep. Yeah, the day before Christmas is Christmas Eve, but Christmas Eve is in the evening. We're not in the evening right now. So it's Christmas Eve day. At least in my mind, that's how that works. No, Eve means before event or occasion. Doesn't it mean evening? Isn't it in reference to the, isn't that it, what it's referring to? Eve, noun, the day or period time immediately before an event. Day before, evening before, night before, period before. I guess. Good enough for me. All right, let's see if I got my face cam working now. Oh, there we go. I think I may have touched the lens at some point. There we go. Anyways, let's see, is this working today? Oh, the battery's working. That's a good start. All right, there we go. Michelle, since you're on Twitch right now, what is the max quality that it lets you display on Twitch? It's the little cog wheel probably that lets you decide if you're going to view 1080p or 720 or whatever. It's not a big deal if you can't find it. I was just curious. Twitch is weird about that. It should be 4K on YouTube, but Twitch is they determine it themselves. Like they, even if I output 4K to Twitch, they'll limit it depending. 1080p? Okay, good. That's what I was hoping. Yeah, YouTube should be 4K though, so whatever. They both select auto automatically, but you can change it on YouTube as well to be 4K. Yeah. That's what I was referring to. Yes, they both select it automatically. Um, but it should give the option of 4K. And the thing is, on YouTube at least, it later when you go back and watch the recording, you can choose to watch it at 4K if you want, which also means if I want to download these videos, I can download them at 4K. Because it's a little too much to record all of these, um, at least all the time, like locally, to record them locally as well as streaming them. It's just too much video to have constantly. I mean, even the 4K that you download from YouTube isn't the same quality as like local recordings, but you know, what can you do? Video takes up too much space, honestly. Anyways, yeah, I'm just hoping to finish off some paintings today. I know I keep saying that. Uh, just goes to show how much time the end process of these paintings actually takes. I was working on this painting a little last night, so I don't have to oil it out because I oiled out last night. So, oh, it's way too dark, which I thought it would be. Folds are are can be very challenging, but are also a lot of fun sometimes. They're especially challenging to invent, at least in my opinion, but luckily I don't have to invent them right now. There are ways of studying it so that it's easier to invent. I don't have any direct, what's it called, reference to recommend, but I'm sure there are how-to books. I mean, How to Draw the Marvel Way covers it briefly, but it's not the necessarily the most in-depth. But yeah, it's definitely out there. I know the Loomis book discusses it a little bit in general. Also, just drawing from life is obviously a good way of going about it. Oh, I forgot I need to put out more yellow. In case anyone watching is curious, my palette is a uh, limited palette, technically. Um, it's black, white, um, yellow bismuth, or cad lemon uh, for the yellow. And then it's what is it? Quinacridone rose or permanent rose, PV19 for the red, and then Halo blue. That is the palette. For black, I use Mars black. I do not use ivory black. You can like paint just fine without ivory, just FYI. There are other blacks that easily replace it or substitute. Mars black is I think technically it's a warm black. I don't know if it's warmer than ivory black. Ivory black used to be a cool black, but now I think it's technically a warm black, honestly. And then it has stronger tinting and coverage than ivory black, Mars black. Uh, not that it's for everybody, but just saying. Bismuth yellow, I'll be honest, I haven't noticed a huge difference between bismuth and cad lemon. They're very, very close. Bismuth is less toxic, but I think surprisingly it is just as expensive, if not more expensive generally, which is surprising because usually CADs are kind of up there. There's a few colors that are more expensive than CADs, but not a lot. Usually the substitutes are cheaper, but yep. Um, the reason I use a limited palette is for numerous reasons. One, I was always taught that way, but that's not the only reason. I like I don't like using paint out of the tube. I always mix my own colors. Um, I don't just use the color that, comes out of the tube. So that's one. And then um, it creates, generally speaking, more harmonious paintings because every color is part of the painting at every stage. So no color kind of is out of place. And that's not 100% all the time or guarantee, but you know, it's a generalization. It works pretty well. And the reason I ended up on this palette out of all the palettes, it's been a process and, you know, I may change it in the future too. Um, but the reason is this palette has the widest gamma range or chroma range, or like I can get the most amount of colors out of it. So I almost never need anything else. Sometimes I do though. If I need like, you know, quote unquote fire engine red, like CAD red or CAD red light, like straight out of the tube, I can't mix that color. But or what is the other one? Uh well, like um turquoise, I guess it would be technically. I can mix a turquoise, but I can't mix like cobalt. I think it's cobalt turquoise or whatever. Can't quite mix that. I'm sure there's some purples as well, same thing. But these are the very extreme colors. These are colors that I would, um, like I said, I'd have to be using them straight out of the tube. Because if you mix them at all, then I can pretty much mix it. Because I do have a, oh, teal, that's the color. Because I do have a cobalt teal, and I can basically mix like within a hair of it with the colors I currently have. So I'd have to be literally needing it to be straight out of the tube. And then the there are some disadvantages to using a palette like this. I have no convenience colors, and that is a pain in the ass sometimes. So, you know, there is that. And then it can kind of push like your palette, this one or any palette actually, can kind of push your paintings in certain directions. Like a lot of my palette is cool, so it can I can, you know, tend to lean towards cool paintings because of it. Uh, you know, it's not a guarantee or anything, but it's definitely like an option that I have to be aware of. And, you know, if your palette was all warms with only one cool color, the same thing would apply, just, you know, for cool colors or for warm colors rather. But yeah, I think the biggest disadvantage is simply the amount of mixing I need to do, because almost none of these colors are good on their own. Like very rarely do I need to use these colors out of the tube. So I have to do a lot of mixing all the time. I mean, skin tone, none of these are skin tones. So I always have to mix my skin tones. And you always have to mix skin tones, but there are colors that are closer. And so it's like just a slight amount of mixing versus what I have to do. So yeah, that's a disadvantage. But I think that my ability to control color and work with color, along with some of the exercises I've done in the past, um, along with those, I do think that this has helped me because you have to be very nuanced about everything and control it better. Oh, the other disadvantage is that all my paints are ridiculously over tinting and strong and have a tendency to like want to take over every mixture I make. There is that. That's kind of a disadvantage. I don't know if a disadvantage, but it's a pain in the butt, that's for sure. But yeah. I also go through a lot of white. I know everybody does, but I feel like I probably go through even more than everybody normally because I basically these colors are like not usable on their own, so I end up having to use white constantly to as a base basically. So yeah, I don't know if this would be a good beginner's palette for the reason it's just so hard to manage. I don't feel it being difficult anymore, but um, I know when I tell people that I'm using Phthalo blue, the immediate response is generally kind of negative because of how hard and how like overpowering it can be. It's a great color. Um, it's very, very useful. The other thing I can say since I'm getting into it is that um, I know a lot of people use ultramarine blue as their like go-to, um, and alizarin crimson and uh, cad yellow light. Those are common ones that I've, you know, or cad red light is also a very common one. I'm talking for limited palettes, right? But they're all those colors are way more limited in their mixture capabilities. Um, ultramarine blue is more leans more red. Um, Halo blue is a more like I'd call it a more primary blue because it can shift. It can go purple or it leans towards the green or cool side, but it can be pushed into it can be pushed into the what's it called into the purple side pretty well, whereas ultramarine blue cannot go into the green. You cannot get a teal color out of ultramarine blue. It's a beautiful blue, don't get me wrong, but it can't go teal. And what's it called? I think the same thing for the yellow. Yeah, cad yellow, cad yellow light, and cad lemon are very very close, but um, cad lemon has the ability to go more green and more warm, I think, than cad yellow light has the ability to do those things, at least in my experience. And the red for sure. Technically, this isn't even a red. PV19 is it's a violet, but it is um, uh, quinacridone rose is the most versatile red I've ever used. If there's a better one out there, I'm open to it. I just haven't found it yet because it can get close to cad red light, but it can also go into the purples very easily. So unless you need fire engine red or like what is it, Ferrari red, I think. Yeah, you probably won't need another red for anything. Although ironically, I do think that CAD red, CAD red light at least has some conveniency to it that's really nice, especially with skin tones. You mix a little black and white into it, and you start getting more towards like the, you know, white skin color, at least as a base. And you can, obviously modify from there. I keep getting my head in the way, trying not to. Oh, since I mentioned color, I should also mention don't or be aware that alizarin crimson proper is considered a fugitive color, which means it isn't very light fast, so it will fade over time. And there's debate about how fast that will happen. I had a friend who had it happen to one of their own paintings within only a couple of years, so you know, it might be a color worth avoiding. I know a lot of people love that color. I don't know why, but a lot of people love that color. I do not see the appeal in it, but I mean, it's a pretty color, don't get me wrong. It's not vital, is I guess my opinion on it. Some people seem to think it is. So right now what I'm trying to do is trying to soften up the face a bit and lessen it actually, because more details isn't always better. This isn't meant to be a portrait. We don't need to see everything here. And I'm not trying to mess up the face necessarily, to be clear. I just don't need it to be, I need the impression of the face, not the details of the face. Which is sometimes really difficult to do for numerous reasons. For one, we're not exactly, I mean, in art school, I kind of was taught this to be fair, but the we don't, we're also taught a lot of the details of how to draw a face, all the anatomy and everything. All that stuff's super important if you're doing a portrait. And actually, I would say even for this, it's super important, but in a different way. For this, it's more like knowing the landmarks to hit to make it convincing. Hopefully, I can pull that off. One thing I do miss from digital is the ability to just select something and move it. That is, without a doubt, I think the thing I miss the most from digital versus traditional, even more than undo. Like just the ability to select something, grab it, and move it somewhere. Ah, such a useful time saver. The reason I'm constantly tilting my head when painting this is I have a tendency, and most painters do, of correcting heads as you paint them, faces. Not so much the head, more just the face, um, which can make things very wonky and messed up. Um, Also, straightening them from looking to the side to looking straight. That's also a tendency. So, tilting your head to like match the angle can sometimes help with that because you're then correcting it. Scout Don. How am I pronouncing this? Scout Dened? Deneb? I'm going with Scout until I hear it differently. Just Scout is fine. Okay, good. I'm bad with names. How you doing? Thanks for stopping by. Hope you're having a good Christmas Eve. If it's something you celebrate, or just a good good Sunday. Love my streams. Oh, thank you so much. That's really sweet of you. Yeah, everything's good. Good holiday. Everything's going well. Just trying to get this face. Hopefully, I can get it today. It is very challenging. I'm more than capable. I've seen what you can do. Keep at it. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's not an issue of, in my opinion, this is the way I look at it, and I think it's even if it's not true, which I think it is, but even if it weren't true, I think of it as the right mental frame of mind is it's not a matter of if, it's just when. It's just I want to get it tonight is the thing, or today rather. But thank you so much. I do appreciate it. But I feel like that's a state of mind that everyone should have because that leads you to take the right chances or make the correct decisions, that confidence in your ability that every artist should have. And I do think it might be one of those like fake it till you make it kind of things. Even if you don't have that ability, you should need to act as if you do. Because you'll get it, you'll develop it over time. But being afraid of things is never the route in painting, at least in my experience. Hell yeah, the right mindset. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Have I seen your art before, Scott? Or is it Scout? Scout or Scott? If it's Scott, write SCOTT so I know, just so I have it in my head which one it is. Boy Scouts. Okay, Scout. Yeah. You're no artist, but you're an admirer. Well, I'm glad that you admire art. That's always great to hear. I do support. I will say this, and not don't feel obligated, but I do support everybody making art. Like I think overall, I think our society is too focused on like the final product that we produce. Like, and don't get me wrong, as someone trying to be, as someone who has worked to be a professional artist for years and years, I know how important quality is. It's how I've gotten jobs and so on. But that is to say, so I know how important that part is. But if you're not looking to make a career out of it, I think everyone should make art for the fun of it. It's just, my personal opinion. And there's all kinds of art you can make. People do paint miniatures, all kinds of stuff. I just support. I don't want people to feel like if they can't be the best at it, quote unquote. I'm not saying you, just to, talking in general. Um, but people, feel like if they can't be the best at it, why even bother? I think that's so reductive. Most definitely, our lives need to be more focused on other things like art. It helps see things from other perspectives. Absolutely. Yeah, all kinds of art, you mean. Yes, I agree. Also music, is a type of art form for sure. One day I will pick up a musical instrument again, uh, and try and learn a musical instrument again. When I was a kid, I did a few times, but I never really got far in it. Not sure what I should pick up though if I did pick up an instrument. Michelle says I should learn how to play the piano. I I did learn at some point. I took piano lessons when I was a child. I don't remember anything from it, but yeah, I did at one point. I'm torn. I don't know if I want, like, I don't really want to take piano if I'm being honest. The thing I would probably want to learn is guitar, but Dragon Let's Play, hey, still working on the piece. Yeah, I went back and I'm redoing the face. I also added in some details, some other details, like you can see here. Um, I added in some of this. I'm probably going to lighten it up a bit, but yeah. And then I added some details on the pillow back here and stuff like that. I'm just kind of fleshing it all out. But I was not happy with her face, so I'm redoing the face yet again. Why it was perfect? I don't think it was perfect. It was good. It wasn't right for the painting. Michelle says we have a guitar I can learn on too. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know if I want to learn guitar though, because so ideally, yeah, I would love to learn to play guitar. The problem is I already overwork my hand as it is and my fingers. So it could be like rehabilitation for my hand, like working it out, or, all the like finger stuff, moving it around, or it could be over overextending it. I'm not sure. I have zero ability to hold the beat. Having said that, kind of interested in the drums. Scout says way more stressful on those fingies. Yeah, you see, I think it might be more stressful on the fingies too. Same thing with piano. Like you have to do all the like, and the weird like forms and everything. Yeah. I feel like drums. Okay, so here's the thing about drums, right? Like I said, I'm not good with a beat, which I guess I would get better at if I did drums. But it'd be a workout at least. So it would be a combination of like exercise and uh, you know, um yeah, exercise and music. I just want to headbang while playing the drums? No, no, no. I feel like you can headbang way more on guitar than you can on drums. Neighbors would love those drums. Well, they do have they do have the electronic drums now. You can just put the headphones on and you can just play the whole set um, electronically. Oh, that true? Yeah. Yeah, same with guitar. You don't need to, play like electric guitar. I had a friend who he lived with his dad later in life. He was taking care of his dad. So he would just plug it in to headphones and play his guitar that way. Yeah, Michelle, but drums are hella loud. Like, yeah, I don't like honestly that even unless we like sound, unless we, would have to like isolate the sound, um, because drums are so loud. Scout, yeah, I feel you on that. We we've had some neighbors be a little inconsiderate as well. Um, you know, it sucks. One thing that we have here a lot is we're in Texas and people will shoot off fireworks for the 4th of July and everything. And like, I get it. I do. I understand enjoying fireworks, but like, this is a residential area. There's grass everywhere. There's all kinds of things that can catch fire. So many people here have animals. Um, and so it's so inconsiderate to just shoot fireworks off in the street during like 4th of July and stuff like that. Like, I get it. You want to do fireworks. It's fun. I do, but it's just not the place for it. You're in Monterrey. That's in Mexico, south of Texas. Yeah. So yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's like I get it. I love for I've I've played with fireworks in the past. They're fun. Like, don't get me wrong, but you got to be considerate a little bit. At least that's my feeling on it. So you're in Mexico, you said? That's my dad used to live in Mexico. Yeah, yeah. Nice. Yeah, I have fond memories of Mexico. I think it was I'm trying to remember where it was. I was as a kid, so I think Mexico City and Tijuana were the locations, I think. But yeah, I had a good time in Mexico. Quite a few injuries as well, but I was a kid, so it's probably more that I was a kid rather than in Mexico, although some of it was probably because I was in Mexico. You used to go to Texas a lot when you were a kid with the Boy Scouts, a troop in Mission, Texas, and the surrounding areas. Nice. Never been in the Boy Scouts. I They have these fireworks or firecrackers or whatever they're called. Um, that they're just red tubes, and they have like white on the end of it, something like that, and the fuse part comes out the middle, something like that, roughly in my memory. That's what it looks like. Um, and they have small ones that are like probably like this big, but then they have like some larger ones that are like this big. Um, and when I was playing around with one of those as a kid, um, I lit it and I threw it. Um, like, I threw it far as a kid though, but I threw it far, and the thing went off, and the little white thing, which is essentially like a cork, or I mean, it's harder than a cork, but they plug up the sides basically, shot out, hit me right in the knee. Uh, I remember that really messing up my leg for a while. Texas is okay. We don't plan on living here forever, but for now it works. Yeah, yeah. Texas is it's all right. There's a lot of great people here, but I don't know. I think I don't vibe with the state. First of all, I definitely don't vibe with the state. But we're in Austin, and even Austin, I'm like, I don't know. It is huge. Yes, it is huge. Absolutely. It is ridiculously large. Yeah, we're from California, so we're used to huge. Yes and no. California is different though in the way it handles the size. I think Texas, I don't know. I think they handled the size like they're like, oh, we have a lot of space. We're just going to like spread out, and I feel like California, uh, you know, the cities are much more like condensed, and then you drive through like country area to another tightly condensed city. Um, that's at least my perception of it. Huge difference from LA to any part of Texas. Oh, that's for sure. Without a doubt. Have you ever been to LA? All taking off to run some holiday errands. Best wishes to you all. Lots of love. Oh, thank you so much, Scout. Good luck with your errands. I hope you have a great holidays. I am not streaming tomorrow night, by the way. Tomorrow night is usually one of my stream nights. It's Christmas. I am not streaming tomorrow night. I just wanted to throw that out there. But I'll be back on Wednesday. See you Wednesday night. Dragon, you almost forgot Merry Christmas? Absolutely, Merry Christmas. How are you doing? I don't know if I asked you, but if I forgot, how are you doing? I apologize. All right. Now, let's tackle this face. So one of the reasons I tend to kind of destroy parts of my painting when I'm doing corrections is to I want to break my perspective on it. And if I keep seeing the same thing all the time, my eyes constantly, or my brain, whichever, whatever, technically constantly tries to reframe things into what it was before. But I'm trying to change it. So going in and like covering up parts of it can be very beneficial to break that that mental block. And like I always say, if you painted it once, you can paint it again. So there's no need to be worried about messing something up. I once heard a painter talk about his process, and he's a much more well, I don't know if much more, but in the paintings he was doing, there was a bit more like abstract elements to it. And he talked about how he has to like put the mark on perfectly every time he puts it down and everything like that. And I understand what he was saying, and I understand the point he was trying to get at, because he does leave a lot more like unfinished marks in his paintings. Um, but I always felt like it was a little disingenuous, because I'm like, yeah, but you can kind of take it off if you get it wrong, right? Like it's not glued on the moment you put it down. Now, once again, I'm not saying that he's, lying or anything, but definitely we definitely have different perspectives on painting, which is fine. It's only natural. I think it's already looking better. I know she doesn't actually have a face at the moment, but I still think it looks better. I remember this, I don't know, it's not technically a quote from Sargent because it was uh, like second or third hand, I can't remember. But someone claimed that Sargent would teach that the eyes come last in a portrait because if you do the face correctly, then the eyes and everything is just all set up to go exactly where it's supposed to, and you just kind of like drop them into place, so to speak. Um, you know, which is an interesting way of thinking about it. But I understand what he's saying. Like everything should be all set up in the right place, and so all you need to do is just like place them. And once again, this I feel like this solution, the problem was the face was right. The rest of the head wasn't right. And so the face was right, but it wasn't placed right. So moving the fixing the top of the head, now the whole face needs to move, which is fine. But it's just one of the things I harp on. I've mentioned a few times, which is that like so many times when I think there's a problem in one area, the solution is somewhere else that's influencing that area. Hey, Vinks. How you doing? This looks really cool but warm. Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Sorry if I missed your message for a while. Clearly I was very focused on this. Yeah, this face has been uh a bit of a struggle, and it's a very challenging one. I actually find, if this was a much larger and more detailed face, it would be so much easier, but it's not, so it's actually harder. But yeah, how you doing? I don't know if you've seen the full thing I'm working on right now, but here you can see the whole painting. Actually, I think the colors might be off. I just remembered something. 1 second. Filters. Yeah, there we go. Colors are a little better now. Forgot that I had uh, a filter on it. And there we go. But yeah, I had to redo the face. Um, hey, there we go. I had to redo her face. It wasn't bad, it just wasn't right. And part of the reason it wasn't right is like I've been talking, is the placement was wrong. Vink says, I've decided to try not to paint faces that small anymore. It's so damn frustrating. You are right. However, my goal is to not paint it super detailed. I think his face might even be too detailed, just a little bit. My goal is to do a more impression of a face than the details, which is just as hard, if not actually harder, for me at least. So I'll get it. I've done it before. It's very challenging. It's a great exercise in using only the most important shapes and values, but it's easier to see your mind when it's clearly large. Yeah. So actually, I don't know if you've seen some of my other paintings, but let me show. And I can use a break too. It's fine. Let me show you some. I have like two or three, at least two paintings that I can show that kind of touch on this same thing, which is this painting, which is one of my favorites. Um, and the reason it's one of my favorites, you love those big expressionistic shapes, anyways. Yeah, no, I get that. One of the reasons this is one of my favorites is because, like, it looks like it's just a woman in a bathtub or something, right? Um, but when you get close, you can see she barely has a face. Like there's no eyelids. There's no, like, it's barely anything there. No details at all. Um, but from a distance, you can't really tell. And so I'm I really like that one for that reason. I have a few others that kind of pull this off pretty well. This one I think does a good job of it too. It's like you can kind of see there's a face there. Like you feel like there's a face there, but when you get close, it's like, sorta. You know, it's there. There's something there, but it's not very well defined. And then one of my other ones, let's see if it's easily accessible. I don't remember where I put it. Yeah, here it is. This was one of the most challenging. It's so soft and feathery, really masterful design choices. Oh, thank you. It's very challenging. This one also follows under that. This one is also one of my favorite paintings. The exposure, you're not going to see it until I get closer. This was so challenging to do because that face is, there is like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just a suggestion of a face. It is, this truly is just like a, hinting at the face in like the softest way possible. I repainted this face, oh my god, so many times because she kept looking, because it was so like so faint and so just so soft. She kept looking like the Joker. Like the face kept coming out with the big smile kind of look, and it was so subtle, but I kept seeing it, so I kept repainting it over and over and over again. She's super washed out and light, but the right amount of information is there. Yeah, I like to think so. It was a lot of fun. I'm really happy with that one and some of the other ones I showed. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love doing portraits. Like I do love doing portraits where you get in there and do all the detail and like, get to put in all the forms of the face and everything. That's why it's so challenging. It's like, it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's not just a balancing act. It's a, tug of war, really. That's more accurate. It's a tug of war between these things that I like doing that are opposite of each other. So it's like, yeah. Oh, thank you so much. Thanks. I appreciate that. Glad you like it. Yeah. So I'm hoping I can finish this painting off tonight. It's close. Like, I'll be honest, there's not, if I go back to the painting, let's see, there's not that much more to do. I need to soften this up a little bit. That's, which is easy enough to do. The dog may need like a touch or two, just like a little touch here or there. I'm not sure. And then, yeah, not sure exactly what else. I may put in just a little bit of, actually I can do some of that right now just to kind of take a break from the face to get, refresh my eyes. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. One of the things I wanted to put in was some definition to the wall, because right now the wall's just like, there's just a line for it, I wanted to go in and put a little, just a little something here and there to kind of help it along. No part of me wants to paint all the details in this brick wall. No. That's one of the things, like sometimes there's no avoiding some details. Like you have to, you just have to go in and paint certain things. But yeah, there's definitely some things you can kind of fudge it a little bit. There's a lot of times when I'm painting someone, um, and they'll be wearing a what's it called? A shirt or something with a pattern on it. I just completely have a tendency to just ignore the patterns and just paint without it. Unless I feel like the pattern really adds a lot, I will not touch a pattern for like shirts and stuff like that. I feel like too often it'll just uh distract, and it's just too much like you have to get it right. And if you don't get it right, it's definitely more distracting. It's just such a pain in the ass to get it right that it's just often not worth it. Don't get me wrong, like I said, if it adds a lot, I'll do it. Just trying to soften up the edge over here a bit. Generally, I don't um, glaze. Not that this is technically glazing, but I don't usually deal with transparency much. But it is very useful for stuff like this if you're kind of just trying to like soften up some lines. Like I said, it's not exactly glazing. This is already wet, so it is mixing like into the paint that's already there. But yeah.
I just didn't want that to be as strong as like contrasty as it was. LOL, how hard is it to keep the yellow and the blue from mixing? Um, some of it is hard, some of it isn't. Like this yellow right here is dry at this point, so that's not a problem. Um, but like the reason I switched to a palette knife over here was because I had some yellow left over on my brush and it was kind of, mixing in there. Um, so that's why I switched to the palette knife to just help cover that. You know, I'm I'm kind of a dirty painter, the way I approach things. Um, in the sense that like I don't use solvents to clean my brushes while I'm painting. I don't use multiple brushes for different colors. I use multiple brushes for size, but I almost never have like one for brights and one for darks and one for cools and and so on. Um, so I'm kind of a dirty painter. Everything has a tendency to mix a lot, um, and that's fine, especially because I usually try to compress everything anyways. So it's something I need to keep an eye on, kind of thing. But yeah, like here, this green is a little too green. Same, same. Yeah, I tried to do the whole like separate brush thing, but I would get distracted and keep like mixing them anyways. So I ended up just having multiple brushes that were all mixed. And it seemed kind of pointless. So yeah. Um, but yeah, I will say I think my palette helps me with this aspect a bit because all the colors are so my palette they're so strong that a they can get muddy. It's fine. They're still so strong. And B, they're so overpowering. Just a little bit in one direction completely overpowers the others. Uh, Vinx says, I'm so guilty of using one brush for the whole painting instead of the right tool for the job. I mean, one brush is often the right tool as far as I'm concerned. I don't think there's a problem with that. So yeah, I have no problem with that. I don't think there's any issue with that. I don't know how people do it. They look like Wolverine with all their like brushes out and everything. I'm just like, okay. I can't keep track of this. I forget. I just go for the paint I need when I need it, and that's it. You grew up pretty poor, so you don't like to waste paint or ruin brushes or whatever. But at some point, you had to just dive in and trust the process. Oh, for sure. That's a big problem that I'm sure I know a lot of painters deal with because I've heard it from a lot of teachers, and I had that problem too. Like using not putting out big piles of paint, being afraid of wasting them, all of that. I will say this: my piles are pretty small, um, except for my white, and the reason is because of my palette. But if I'm doing a big painting or whatever, then I put out a lot more. Um, but yeah, I feel you. I grew up kind of the same, I'd say, or similar at least. Yeah, I have a hard time wasting paint. Um, do you paint in oils, Vink? Is it is Vink okay, by the way? I should double check, but yeah. Um, do you paint in oils? Yeah, the painting is precious, not the paint, for sure. And even that, I actually you know what? I take that back. I agree and disagree. The painting is only precious when it's done. Until it's done, it's not precious. My personal opinion or perspective on it, because that stops me from being too precious with the painting during the process. You know, which gives me the freedom to just absolutely ruin the painting. You agree? Yes, the you paint in oil. It's Corey, short for Corey V Inks. Okay, cool. Corey. I'll try and remember that. I apologize. Uh since it's not in the name, I might have a harder time. But yeah, I'll definitely try to remember. Yeah, I'm sure you know this, but if you don't, or if someone else doesn't, there's a trick with oils to help. There's a few tricks you can do to help, not waste paint. Um, you get a airtight, an airtight container for them. Um, this is for your palette. I'm talking. I use the Mastersons, I think, airtight palette. I just take my palette, which is on glass, and put it in there. And then I use a little cotton ball with clove oil. Um, and I leave that open in there with the paint. And that helps the paint stay wet for longer. And I don't use any of the umbers or earth tones because they pissed me off and it would dry too fast. Um, so they are cheap though, so not exactly the worst thing in the world. It's just something to be aware of. And also, I've heard people put them in the free. I've actually done this myself. I put it in the freezer, and that does help them last longer. It's just a pain in the ass. Um, but it does work. And then there's other ways too. I have a friend who bought this. Like I don't remember what it is. It's like a 3D printed little container for your paints, for your paint piles, and so on. But I'm sure that works. Like because it seals up and you use clove oil. It does the whole same thing, but I find that to be a pain in the ass because then the palette part is missing. So yeah, you got to try that. You have two boys, so you paint like 30 minutes intervals and you get busy, so you get lazy about your stuff, and it's kind of important. Yeah, so here's the thing, right? Like I bought, this thing, right? It's like I said, I think it's the Mastersons or something Stay Wet palette. This is just plastic. It has a lid, right? This is the 12 by 16. I bought a 12 by 16 piece of glass from like Home Depot for like $5. And that's my palette. And then I take the whole thing and I just put it in here. I have this little, container with a cotton piece in there and a clove oil. And I open it up. Has double-sided tape because I couldn't figure out a way of making it stick. So I just stick it on and then take it off whenever I need to. And I just open that when it's in there, and that's it. It keeps the paint wet for quite a while. I mean, it's not perfect, especially like I said, if you use umbers, it's not gonna do it, but it can pull it off. I can keep my paint wet for days to like the piles can stay wet for like a week. All right. When I bent down for that, my back was like, hey, you need to stretch. So excuse me for a second while I stretch my back. I spend too much time either sitting down or standing up. I have to find a better balance of things. Good. Hold on a second. There's an extra burrito in the kitchen, in the fridge, if you want it. Okay. Yeah, Corey. We have cats, and so I like having um a setup that's fairly easy to, like, you know, put away and pull out when I need it. Not that it's the same as kids, but you know. Also with work, that's one of the things that is actually not just for you, but for anybody. One of the best or biggest advices I can give someone: if you are limited on time, if you have a job, I have a job, you know, even though it's an art job, I have a job that isn't painting. If you have a job, if time is an issue, if anything, if you have any other obligations and so on, um, have your painting set up, always set up and ready to go, or as close to it as possible. I find that to be the biggest thing. My, you know, tear down and like getting ready and tearing down is so quick if I'm not streaming, um, that it makes it easy to just, you know, get going. So that would be like, that is absolutely the advice. And if anyone, you know, is struggling, they have limited space, because I know I'm lucky, I have space. Someone doesn't, if someone has limited space, less options, I have been there. You know, I have a little tabletop easel that I used to paint off of. There are ways of doing it there, you know, but having everything nearly ready to go at an instant is like the way to go about it. That's why I wear gloves, by the way. Gloves are for safety, for my own safety, but more than my own safety, it's for the animal's safety. Every once in a while, something will happen, you know, and I'll need to like have, you know, clean hands instantly. Yeah, that's what the gloves, that's what they're very useful for. They're not fun to wear. I am tired of wearing them. Although now I suspect that I'll have to get used to painting without them if I ever go back to it. Yeah, but it is safer, you know, to wear them. I don't think anybody would ever, you know, argue that point. It might be over the top. That might be true, but yeah. You also haven't tried to connect. Look, hold on a second. I also haven't tried to connect locally with galleries in the area. That's probably the next step for me, building a real concise portfolio. Yeah, that that's a tough one. I haven't connected with the galleries either. Although I will say this, not to discourage you from connecting with local galleries. How can I put this? One of the issues with galleries is they want to be the ones to sell your paintings for you, which means um, you can't sell your paintings yourself. Now, usually there's a bit of a geo restriction on that, meaning if, let's say, you have a gallery representing you, you know, in let's say, you know, Austin, I'm in Austin. So if I have a gallery in Austin representing me, then if I sell a painting out of my own studio on my own time, I still have to pay the gallery their commission for it. But if I, let's say, was represented by a studio in Houston, that wouldn't be the case. It's just hard for people to see my art without getting out myself. Yes, it is very difficult. I'm in the same boat as you. And there's a bit of putting the horse before the cart in what I'm talking about, because, you know, if you're not selling any paintings right now, it doesn't really matter if the gallery is taking, you know, a percentage or whatever. It's just one of those things to like be aware of in general, not a you know, not a discouraging factor. But I agree. I understand where you're coming from. I'm in the same boat. I'm much more connected with the um, world of like production art and illustration and so on. Way more contacts in that world. Trying to get my personal paintings, like my fine art, you know, fine art stuff out there is very, very difficult. That is, in fact, why I'm streaming. Well, not the only reason. I also really like connecting and like, you know, not to be too parasocial because like, you know, I don't want to assume that I know people that I've just like talked to on you know, on like chat. But that is why I'm here. That's one of the reasons. But also, like I said, it's good to make friends and make connections. You know, not to be too parasocial, but I have actually made some friends off of streaming, like genuine friends. And even if they're just like, you know, like quote unquote work acquaintances type of thing, that's also good. It's always good to network and meet new people. You never know. I used to, you know, I used to hate the term networking and so on because it feels kind of scummy, at least in my mind. Um, that's changed a lot over the years for me because I've literally made some really good friends off of like quote unquote networking. So I just view it as like I try to view it as making friends, you know. That feels a lot better to me. YouTube is a good platform if it works for me. It doesn't, but yeah, it is a great platform. I say it doesn't just because like, you know, I have very few followers or viewers or anything like that. It's fine. It is what it is. I've only been live streaming the videos we'll see what happens once I start cutting videos. You know, that might, hopefully that changes things a bit. That's next. This next year, that's the goal, to start actually editing some videos together and actually getting some, you know, quote unquote content out there. Not that I have no expectations of being a YouTuber. It's more of a networking, making friends, getting my work out there. And then hopefully, you know, galleries will come knocking on my door. And I don't have to go chasing them. Because I'm really bad at chasing them. My cardio is not very good right now. So far, I've had more, like generally speaking, more people watch me and interact on Twitch than they do on YouTube. So I think because I'm simulcasting right now, I do think, what's it called? Twitch is better for live content. You know, it just is. Gotta go. No problem. Thanks so much for stopping by. Have a great Christmas. Happy holidays. You know, all of that. Yeah, I'll be back on Wednesday and next Sunday as well. Wait, am I going to be back Sunday? I don't know. Definitely Wednesday. I don't know if Sunday's a holiday or not. I lost track of life. But yeah, it's been great talking to you. I hope you have a great holiday weekend and Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays if Christmas isn't your thing. And yeah. Tag me if you share any of your paintings. I'd love to see some of your stuff. If you're still here. If you're not, I'm sorry. I should have mentioned that earlier. But yeah, tag me. I'd love to see your artwork. I'm gonna try and finish this face, and then I'll probably be calling it a night or a day or whatever. I feel like this painting is also really, like, I'll have to double check, like maybe there's uh detail here or there, but otherwise I think it's pretty close to done. That was weird. Something just like fell on its own. Usually when that happens, it's a cat that's to blame. Trying to avoid the Joker look on her, which is challenging. I might adjust this a little more Maybe, but I need to let it sit before I do. Because this is probably as close to what I want. Because you can see, like, at this distance, yeah, his face might need to be softened up a bit, which might be really easy to do because everything's dry on him, or most of it at least. All right, just one last detail here. And I'm probably going to be calling it a day or night or whatever. All right, I'm trying to fix his face in time, but my back is starting to really make it so that I can't. So I'm going to take a break, stop my stream, and I will fix his face later. Shouldn't be too hard. It's just I cannot focus properly. Because I apparently have reached my limit for tonight, or for the moment. So I will be back on Wednesday. Sunday, I don't remember if it's New Year's or not. So maybe, maybe not. Well, I'll find out Wednesday. Anyways, I'll be back Wednesday. Hope everyone has a happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Enjoy your time off, or hope you make plenty of overtime, all of the good stuff, whatever you're doing. And yeah, hope to see you Wednesday. Have a good one. Bye.